Okay, so now we move on to the boat. So reveal it, and as you can see, this looks like it's a bit too wide. So the first thing we're going to do is to squeeze it. So Ctrl T, and then distort and squeeze it in a bit like this. Okay, so now it looks a lot better already. Then we're going to scale it down. Remember, Shift, and then drag down to scale. Scale it down a bit. So now that's great. And in the original one, we have it more like sideways. So we can change that by Ctrl T, and then go into the perspective, and then bring this up a bit. Okay, so like this. And then we can distort this image up a bit, and then maybe make it a little bit smaller. And now I think it looks pretty great. One thing we have to do for this boat is to erase some of this strong like edge here, so make it a bit more round looking. So the hardness to 100, and then take some of the edge out and make it a bit more round shaped. Okay, that's good. And now we're going to fix the lighting on this. So now we are going to use the burn tool, because as you can see, the light is coming from here on this image, and we in this boat image it's coming from here. Okay, so we need to burn the highlights here and make them stronger on this side, of course. So we're going to zoom in, and then we're going to choose the burn tool, and now we're going to take the highlights out. So exposure to something like 25, I think it's good. You want to keep this always lower than 50 or 50, because if you put it to 100, it will take the highlights out very like fast, and you want to be able to make slight adjustments always. So 25 is great, and then we're going to just brush here and take the highlights out. And when I cut this out, I just cut out some of the parts, like for example this lunchbox here. And when we take these highlights out, they won't be like, even you won't pay attention to them. Like if you look the image from far, you won't able to even see them that well, so they don't have to be removed. So now we take the highlights out. And don't worry if the image starts to look like a bit like the colors are fading out, because we can fix that with adding contrast to the image. So taking here some of the off. Okay, we have one part here that is white, so we're going to erase this. Okay, and then I also spotted that we have here a slight problem, but we can fix that later. Okay, so now we take the rest of the highlights out. Okay, like this, and maybe here a bit too. Okay, as you can see, it looks a lot better than the original one. And when you click Alt, the burn tool will change to dodge tool. It won't show here, but it's the same. Like when you click Alt, then the adjustment will be reversed. As you can see now, I start to paint and the highlights come in. And if I don't have it, then it will just look like this. Okay. So now we're going to add some of the highlights for the right side. Okay, so click Alt and then press here and bring some of the highlights back. And we want all of the highlights out from the front of the boat, since there isn't any light going here. we actually want to burn some of the shadows. And when you use the shadow thing, then you have to like bring the exposure down a lot. So now we're going to bring some shadows here, and also here, because here is shadows. And then you can like test all of these out and see which one makes the best changes. Sometimes you don't find that immediately. Here is some strong highlights that we don't want. And we actually like, let's remove this part because that looks a bit weird in my opinion. So that's now removed. Okay, now we have light coming here and the highlights are here, and we have also burnt the highlights from here, and now it looks like it belongs more to the image. Of course it doesn't look realistic. This bridge doesn't even look realistic yet because we missed the reflections, but that will be on another video. But yeah, now we're going to burn maybe here a bit, and here, and maybe that a bit. Okay, so now that looks great. Now we want to add the contrast because this made it a bit blank, and we are going to do the contrast with curves. So control and select the outlines, and then click curves here, or take it from the layer and then to new adjustment layer and curves, as I showed before. Then click curves, and now we're going to make a contrast curve. So the contrast curve works like you bring some of the blacks to the right, some of the highlights here, I mean some of the blacks to the right and a bit up, like this, and then we're going to bring it down from the middle, and then from the highlights up. Okay, so as looking curve is a contrast curve. So in these curves, the highlights are here right on the top, and blacks are here on the left. So remember that. Then we take the opacity down a bit, I mean fill. Like, I don't really know what the difference is between opacity and fill. They seem to always look the same, so it doesn't really matter which one you use. But yeah, let's take the fill out a bit so the effect won't be that strong. Something like this looks great. Okay, now we can compare. That adds a lot of contrast to the image. Okay, now let's just move everything to the place. So you can select this by clicking shift, and then so you can select two layers. Then you can like click here and move this. Oops. Maybe Control T and then move, so that won't do any complications. Okay, so that here, maybe distort it down a bit. And then we can also change. Okay, let's not change anything here. That looks pretty great. Okay, and then select this and Control T and then move this to the place. Maybe we can take the perspective down a bit more so it looks better, and then distort it up a bit. Now it's perfect. Okay, so that's how you blend images in, the lighting, coloring, etc. And in the next video I'm going to show you how to do reflections, so that should be interesting. So let's see you in the next video.